Joining me now is security expert and bodyguard to the billionaires, Ross McLean. Ross, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to join you on this topic. And the only reason I say it's good, Mark, is because I think I've got a lot to contribute for the public to know to help understand what exactly is going on with this horrific case.
Okay, well, what is going on?
Well, look, as soon as this came out, I already suspected and knew what the whole thing was going to play out like. And there's a reason for that. There's more than a trend that goes on with these shootings. And let me qualify everything I'm going to say here today with two different ways, Mark. So I worked in law enforcement, right? I know the law enforcement, I know the response side of this, right? Where you react when a shooting like this takes place, which, by the way, it appears the RCMP did a great job on scene in 2 minutes. I'll have more to say about that. But I also work in the bodyguard business. And there, your job is preventing things like this from happening, right? You want to stop them from happening. And this was something that clearly we have not looked at. We all know we're not discussing the elephant in the room. We're not dealing with preventing these problems. Let me clarify that a little bit more. If I have a client I'm protecting against, let's say, from the IRA, I'm going to look at the IRA and how they attack people, what they do, where they do it. I'm going to know everything about them so I can prevent them from getting close to my client. I don't say, oh, well, it's politically incorrect to describe the Irish as being part of the IRA, therefore you can't discuss it, therefore don't consider that in your planning, right? That's ridiculous. You have to call things for what they are if you're going to prevent them from happening. And what I notice here is there's a complete lack of wanting to call this for everything that it appears to be the other ones. This is trans violence that was put on by somebody. And you know what? I don't even necessarily blame this kid. He was molded into this, to a position where you know that this sort of thing is going to happen. We all know it. That's the elephant in the room, Mark.
Yeah. And I guess when you add to that the possibility that he was taking certain medications that are involved in his transitioning, that all of this in a young man, a troubled young man, an emotionally disturbed young man, you put it all together and you end up with the disaster that just unfolded in Tumbler Ridge. But you're looking at a society, Mark, that took him down that road. I mean, we can talk more about some of the things we need to do to prevent these sort of things, but you need to have an inquiry into this and all the things that brought this to be. Because I can list them for you. It's not hard. I mean, from the police vantage point to them, for them to describe this person, the shooter, as a gun person, that's not normally a phrase that you hear, but it just makes you look at the woke language and extract from that the attitude of the police when they start using those types of terms and then withholding elements of the shooter's identity and so forth. But thanks to social media and so forth, we have evidence that this person was very troubled, talked about medications and their transitioning and what a hard time this individual was having in that particular stretch. And unfortunately, it ended in the way that it did. And I don't know, how do you begin to prevent this? I mean, apart from taking added security measures within the schools, obviously the government's going to use this. At some point, they're going to politicize it, like they did the Nova Scotia massacre, and use that to go after firearms. That's very typical of what they do. You know, the bodies weren't even cold in Greater Halifax when the government started exploiting that for political means. I hope that doesn't happen in this case, but let's not lose sight of the possibility that it might. But what every parent is thinking is, how do I avoid this at my kid's school? That's what they're thinking right now. Do you have any words of advice to them apart from homeschooling?
Yeah, well, I would have things I could say to the parents and the bereavement and the shock that they're going through. But let me go back to your original question about how do you start to monitor and deal with some of this. There's some very foundational things you can do. But let me go up a little bit more from the foundation. We'll talk about we're on the first floor here, Mark. When you have a child who's going through clearly emotional distress, clearly deciding they want to transition their identity, clearly they're taking drugs, that should be on the school's radar. Because it's the same thing as if you drive a car, they rate you for your insurance, right? You're a male. Well, you're 16 years old. Just got your license. You got a lot of tickets. They're going to treat you differently, right? Because the warning signs are there. And if you start seeing behavior problems, like there was clearly, according to social media, the great reporting, by the way, great reporting by JUNO News, getting all the social media out. You wouldn't know nothing if you were watching mainstream news. And you see these, as the behavior gets worse, you notify the police. You say, hey, we got a kid here, behavior problems, on drugs, getting a little bit detached from reality. Can you please check the home, see if the home has any weapons there, see if there's been any calls to that home before for violence and bad behavior by the child, and just do a basic check so we can be aware, so we can protect everybody else. Because it's going to go off the rails at a certain point. It very likely is. So the schools need to be taking an active prevention in that. And the police, I love the blue, Mark, as you know. They have to stop being so politically correct, and they have to deal with these issues straight up. And I had not liked the communication from the police on this. It sounds like, great, the call came in, RCMP was there in 2 minutes. We don't know much more after that, what happened, except they entered the school, and at some point, this person unalived themselves. Was it 3 hours later? Because the police didn't clear it for 4 hours. Or were they in there right away and they saw it? They saw that the person was dead. They clearly didn't call an ambulance to take him away. Why are they not giving the information out to the public so the public can deal with this? Police chiefs are allowed to do that when it's in the public interest. So I think there needs to be way better communication. There's a call going on right now. I don't know what's happening with it in Brantford, Ontario. It says a high school is closed down there. Police say, don't come near. Parents don't come to the school till we resolve this. I can just imagine what those parents are thinking, right? What are they thinking is going on at that school? So as long as we dance around naming the thing that needs to be named, that goes unnamed, you're never going to be able to solve this problem, in my opinion.
I mean, they were in a fairly remote area. I mean, there were other communities in the area, but I mean, you're talking about a small community that might not have access to the kinds of services, social services that, say, you would get in Vancouver or Victoria. I mean, did that play a role here, do you think? I mean, I'm not looking for scapegoats, by the way. I'm not looking for justifications as to why this happened. I think this was a heinous act, assuming it went down the way we believe it did. But, will the government look at trying to maybe improve services for people who are, quote unquote, transitioning in, tiny communities like Tumbler Ridge?
Yeah, well, I'm going to once again, I'm going to give you my preventative side on that one, Mark. And certainly they had enough social services there that he could see a doctor, get prescribed all sorts of drugs for this. The doctor would have had to watch him and see what was going on with him and still see what's going on to manage it. He was obviously influenced, just looking a lot, by his online activities, getting involved in violence online and talking in the Reddit subgroups about different issues. So my struggle is there enough there to help him continue down a road that's going to cause him a lot of trouble? I think you need to help him recognize the problem. You need to recognize the problem. And I say this, and I do not say this without compassion. One thing that I do in my job, Mark, when I look at criminals, crimes, and motives, I look at the identity of the person. And I can figure out a lot from their identity. When you're confused about your identity, you've got a real problem. And to have schools and doctors helping to confuse, you've got a real problem. I think it's much easier to give him mental health treatment, to get him comfortable with the way his body was made, than it is to try and change his body to meet the struggles that he was having in his head. That's
Yeah,
me. I'm not a doctor, but you have to look at how you prevent.
right. There was something that you said earlier about access to a firearm. I mean, in many of these communities, you do have a gun, and it's not strange to have a firearm for a myriad of reasons if you're in the country. But if you've got a child in the house that is clearly having emotional problems, disturbed, online saying things, on medication, then does it make sense to get the firearm to a place where that individual, a young person, cannot access it?
Absolutely, it does. You have to deal with that reality. That's been the case in several other mass school shootings. They come home and get the parents' gun and take it away. It's such a tough thing to talk about, right? Because
It really is.
but you have to name the problem. You can't run away from the problem. We're seeing these kids that are suffering through this. They have the highest rates of suicide of just about any group. Why? Well, we know why, but we're continuing to encourage the problem. And it's become like a social, I don't want to go too far afield from where I'm at, but it's just like anorexia. It was a socially transmitted disease. That's what it was. They did a test where they went to the Far East, Papua New Guinea. Nobody had a problem. None of the girls there had a problem with it. They brought in TV. They showed all the skinny models. Anorexia broke out in Papua New Guinea, right? There are some memes that are transmitted socially. And this is a child. He's 17 years old. He apparently started this transitioning, was 15, according to the online stuff that I'm seeing. That's a child. He can't drive a car. We need to name this and deal with this. And
I have to ask as well. I mean, are there those who feed into the idea that trans people are mistreated, misunderstood? Your parents don't understand you. Your friends, it's at school, other people at school don't understand you. It's their fault that you're miserable, that you're feeling uncertain about who you are and what you are. And, that sort of thing happens. There are factions in this world that want to feed into that mindset almost to push these people over the edge. And do you think that that's a factor?
well, absolutely. You have prominent politicians and activists who wear shirts that say things like trans rights with a knife on it. You see, there's a whole lot of talk in the trans community about we will kill you if you get in our way, if you don't give us what we want. I mean, that's just a fact. So if I was having to protect someone against someone who suffered from this mental disease of trans, I would know all about them and I know how to prevent it and I know how to deal with it. It is when when I used to protect billionaires, the worst ones I protected them against, Mark, the hardest ones for me were cases of mental illness. I helped advise a lot of media people as well, too. A lot of people in media get fixated on by people who sit at home and build up mental ideas in their head. And then they come at you from all kinds of angles. They're almost the trickiest to deal with. If it was just a political ideology, you could deal with it differently.
You dealt with mentally ill billionaires.
Is that maybe my phone cut? Mentally ill going after to attack billionaires.
Okay.
Some of them were, no, most of them were very good.
Well, Ross, I thank you for coming on the show. I mean, you've really provided some great insights into this whole thing. I don't know if there are any answers yet. People will be grappling for answers. They'll look at things like services. They'll look at things like firearm access. Unfortunately, legal firearms owners are going to once again be put in the crosshairs, figuratively or metaphorically speaking, by people who somehow blame access, the fact that we have access to firearms, legal firearms in this country, and illegal. I mean, let's face facts. All these things are going to be grappled over the next weeks. And at the end of the day, when the smoke clears and the stories have stopped, you're going to have families grieving the loss for the rest of their lives. I mean, there are families whose lives were destroyed as a result of this thing, and we can never forget those people.
It is the apple of their eye. The work that people put into their children. Trust me, I work with counselors. I understand PTSD. I've seen cops that have ended their lives because maybe they attended a call like this and what they saw. It is traumatic. But back to your point there, you can't blame the gun. It's the person with the gun. This could have been done with a car. We've seen cars for ideology drive through and kill people. You have to deal with and name the problem. All of this trying to work around the outside of it, you're never going to deal with it. And these kids that are going through these struggles, they need the right kind of help. I mean, I believe they closed the one transitioning place over in England, the Tavistock it was called, and because they could not believe the work that they were doing in there. And I think the U.S. has ended it in a lot of states. They're shutting down, doing a lot of this because you know what the problem is. You're going to wreck these kids. You're going to wreck them. And the incidence is just too high for damage to the kids as opposed to helping, and someone's going to go on and have a great normal life moving forward. You got to name it. You got to name it, Mark.
How do people access your terrific content online, Ross?
They can catch me at McLean Chronicles on my YouTube. And I try to do on there what I'm doing here. I try and call the balls and strikes. And life is hard, Mark. It's hard. But nothing's harder than those parents that have to bury those kids.
Absolutely. And our condolences go to all of them. Sad day indeed. Ross, thank you for coming on the show. And if you enjoyed this show, consider supporting great independent journalism where breaking news stories are told by going to junonews.com/straight up, the name of this show, junonews.com/straight up. It helps us a great deal. Thank you.